Today's Wednesday, it's the 26th of February, it's 2025, and Anita's gone off to her knitting group today, as it's a Wednesday, and so I'm in Port Al's, one of my favourite spots here, just overlooking the sea by the church, which is just behind me over there. Well, we've got some convenient benches here that we can sit on, look through the railings, overlooking the sea. The sun's been shining beautifully this morning, but I do notice that over that side we've got some dark clouds, and yesterday we had some quite heavy rain, so there's some puddles around, but it looked really beautiful when I looked out this morning. There's the blue sky. The temperature really has dropped quite significantly from yesterday, when we were getting highs of 18-19 degrees. Today I looked on my phone at the weather forecast, it said 13 degrees, so 13, maybe 15 degrees, and it does feel that little bit cooler, a little bit more breezy. But that doesn't spoil the view. The view is still so beautiful here, and the last couple of days we've seen some really nice views in Camp de Mar, and yesterday down in Santa Ponsa. So temperatures probably not even 13 degrees at the moment, but there's a beach down there, and well, there's people sitting, somebody over there fishing, somebody on that side sitting on the beach. Maybe they can't feel the breeze so much up there, down there, I don't know. I'm certainly feeling the breeze up here, and there's not many boats out to sea. There's one of the ferries off going round there, and there's a big boat moored in the bay off Palma Nova. But other than that, we've got a pretty empty sea. Really quite beautiful. So I'm just going to put my camera down, let you have a look at that. I'll just put it a little bit closer to the bars so that they're not impeding the view. But it is a really beautiful view. Had lots of nice messages, lots of lovely ones over the Christmas lunch. I know not everyone's a turkey fan, but our Christmas lunch is typically a turkey with all the trimmings, and we really enjoyed doing it for our Spanish friends who wouldn't normally be eating a meal like that. Not at Christmas, well, certainly not at this time of the year. So that was a great success. Really enjoyed doing that. Some of the videos that I've made quite a long time ago have been cropping up as well. Somebody contacted me from Stoke-on-Trent, where I used to live. They'd been watching the video of Hanley, and made some lovely comments about that video. So it's really nice that these videos keep popping up and people watch them and then send us some comments. And another one that came from a while ago, someone wrote to me yesterday to ask about tax situation. They'd been watching the video I did about retiring and pensions in Spain, and I think they were suggesting I did an update on that video, but I'll just say a few things about it now. First, very much a disclaimer, I'm not a tax expert. I pay my taxes, but I don't actually deal with it myself. When we first came to the island, which is now almost 40 years ago, the teachers told me here, you have to do this Declaración de la Renta, this tax form, every year, and it has to be done by usually the end of June. And it's quite a complicated form, and there used to be two versions of it. There used to be the full version, and then one which they referred to as the simple version, and I think I did the first one ever, which was a simple version, and I filled it all in myself as best I could, and sent it all off, and I forgot to send in my pay slips to the effect, but at the end of your year the company gives you your tax situation, and I mustn't have sent that, and I didn't know where it was, so they first refused it, and I ended up sending in all of my pay slips. They accepted all of that, and I think did it. Ever since then, I've been doing it with an accountant, and certainly when I had the business, it was much easier to do it with an accountant. I don't think I could have done it myself. It's just too complicated, and they've obviously got more insight in the things that you can claim and can't claim. So even though we're now retired, we still use an accountant to do our tax return. But basically, we've lived and worked here for nearly 40 years, and so most of our pension actually comes from Spain. It's a Spanish social security pension, and that just gets deposited in our bank account 14 times a year. So it's unlike other places maybe, they still have this 14 payments, so you get a double payment in November and another double payment in May, I think it is. And that's quite nice to look forward to. But all of those payments are taxed at source, so we don't really need to think about that, but we do need to declare it. If you get a pension from elsewhere, we both, Anita and I, get small pensions from the UK because we worked in the UK, and that gets sent to us without any deduction of tax from the Department of Work and Pensions. And when it arrives here, it just gets dumped into our Spanish bank account, and there's no deductions of tax. So when we declare that goes onto our tax form. Then we have to pay tax on it here in Spain. And if you get any other income from private pensions or elsewhere, then that all has to go on your Declaración de la Renta, and they work out how much tax you owe. And then that will get taken out of your bank account. So part of this Declaración de la Renta form is your bank account. And so usually at the beginning of July, somewhere around that time, they will be taking money out of your account if you owe them money. It used to be when we had children that they owed us money, and we used to get a nice lump sum back from the tax people. Well, we've got no children to claim for now, and so we end up having to pay them. If you owe them a lot of money, you might not be able to pay it all in one go, and you can choose then to split it. As far as I know, you can only split it in two, and pay half in July and then half in November. I guess if it was a lot of money, you might be able to negotiate some other payment, but we've never had to get into that. We do. Our accountant chooses that we pay it in two bits, one in July and then one in November, and that means we're not losing a big chunk of money. So they give you this extra payment in May, and it tends to go on that sort of tax. So that's the income tax side of things. The other tax side of things, of course, is if you live here, you live in a house or an apartment, then you've got your council taxes to pay for. And council tax comes two separate things. One is for your bins, the basuras, and one is the regular council tax, which pays for things like schools and police and roads and all of those sorts of things. That's the EB. And that will depend on where you live, what size house you have or apartment you have, and that gets paid. Again, for us, we just pay it once a year, and it's much less than it ever was in the UK. I think my mother was paying, when she was alive, well over £1,000, and I think ours is less than half of that for a similar sort of size of property. But again, that will depend on which municipality you're in and what sort of house you've got. If it's a rural house, you may be paying much less than that as well, especially if you've not got any basuras, many bins to be emptied. There are lots of other taxes, of course. There's the VAT that you have to pay on almost everything here. I think something that was a bit unusual compared with the UK is that food gets VAT on it as well. Although during COVID that was removed for a time, but I think it's gone back. And the VAT, the EVA, is all different rates going right up to 21%, I think is the highest level, depending on what it is you're buying or what services you're contracting. And for the tourists, we have a tourist tax. And tourists, anyone who's staying in holiday accommodation. So we're going away on the other side of the island soon, and we'll check into a hotel, and we'll have to pay the tourist tax as well. So we're classed as tourists, even though we live on the island. We pay all our council taxes and other taxes here on the island. We still have to pay the tourist tax. The tourist tax comes in two different rates, one for the winter and one for the high season, the summer. And within those rates there are different rates, so multiple rates, depending on the type of accommodation you're staying in. So the higher the quality, the more stars on the hotel, for example. If it's a 5-star, you'll be paying more in the tourist tax than if it's a 2-star rated hotel. What the current rates are for this year, I don't know. But reading the paper, the Baleares are awash with tax this year. They've had record employments last year, so we've had more people paying tax, and if more people are earning money, they're spending money, so they're collecting more EVA. And we had records in the tourist sector, so record amounts of tourist tax were collected. So millions upon millions of extra tax were collected last year. So the government here in Mallorca in particular are suggesting that we should have some tax cuts, and I haven't actually announced what those tax cuts are going to be, but we'll see. I'm sure in the next few days if they highlight something. One thing they did suggest was to give locals a little bit of an advantage and to eliminate the tourist tax, but they found that was difficult, if not impossible, to do without breaking some EU law. So that's not going to happen. What they might be able to do is give us something back somewhere else to replace the tourist tax that we pay if we go on holiday here in Majorca or Ibiza, Menorca, Formentera. We'll see if that comes about. And on Friday we're going to get some proposals from the local government as to what they're going to do about the overcrowding that we get in the summer. Excuse me. So they're going to talk about how they're going to limit the number of tourists on the island. Well, it's getting very, very grey over there. Very blue on the left, very grey on the right. Let me just move the camera and show you. So lovely blue skies up there. There's some very dark grey over there, which I think may indicate we're going to get some rain. Well, I'll keep my eye on the clouds, and if they get much closer I might have to adjourn to the nearest bar for a coffee, that is. The other thing that I get lots of comments on is ETIAS and the EES. ETIAS is a visa waiver, and I don't think anyone's got anything to worry about ETIAS this year at all. The EES seems to be getting a lot of coverage, and I don't know, it's a little bit scaremongering, clickbait, I don't know what it is, but it's some of it is just not quite true or not quite complete. There is a special website put up by the European Union for the ETIAS and for the EES, and I looked at it this morning and it still says it hasn't been introduced yet, and it isn't going to be introduced very soon. You're going to get 6 months warning or a few months warning before it actually is introduced. But newspapers still seem to be making headlines out of it, and our own Mallorca Daily Bulletin is one of them. Another one is the Birmingham Post. They seem to scandalise things, and they're just half truths that they're telling, and it just just upsets me really. So when you go onto the official EES website, this electronic entry and exit system that's going to be placed at the entrance to the Schengen area of Europe, there is no set date. What it is, though, when it does get implemented, is anyone from outside of those areas, and the newspapers, particularly the Bulletin, seems to think it's aimed at Britons and it's aimed at Mallorca. Well, it's not aimed at Britons, it's at anyone who's not in the European Union Schengen agreement will have to go through this. And basically the first time you come into that area, you will have your photograph taken, you'll have your fingerprints scanned. And well, you might think that'll all take ages, but we've been doing the photographing here for a long time. The fingerprint will be new, and just hopefully that will work. I didn't have a very good experience with my new phone yesterday when I was trying to set that up. It took me much longer than I expected to get the fingerprint in. But anyway, I managed to do it in the end, and it seems to be working fine now. Well, hopefully they won't have that problem when they do the entry and exit system. Once you've done it once, then that will get stored onto a computer, and they will only need to do one of them in the future, which will probably be your photograph. And then it'll get renewed every 3 years or so. The problem really, as far as I think I can see, is the ports, is where you've got large numbers of people coming in, coaches and trains, and they've suggested that there may be some system that you can actually go through. So maybe if you go to an office in your hometown, you might be able to do the scanning before you actually cross the border. There may be some system where that's made available. And I think a lot of it, the scaremongering came from a particular official in Dover who said that the EES, the entry-exit system, would be introduced in November, and that's the only person who I have seen who's actually quoted an approximate date, and that doesn't seem to have been very official, because it's not really been published anywhere else. So when it does come in, then the ETIAS can come in, but the ETIAS won't come in for several months after. They'll want to see that this entry and exit system's working properly before they introduce the ETIAS. And I've just read, and again, I'm assuming it's true, that the ETIAS won't be strictly required for the first 6 months. That ETIAS, by the way, it's a visa waiver. It's not a full-blown visa, so it's very easily available. It'll all be available online when it happens. You just pay your €7, is it? And you just fill in all of the forms, and it's virtually instant for most people. There may be some people who it's a bit more complicated for, if you've got certain criminal records, for example, might be addressed. But that's not going to happen until next year anyway. So for this year, nothing to worry about, but something to keep your eye on. Well, I've been watching the clouds, and 2 birds have joined me here. They seem to be all wrapped up nice and warmly in their feathers. And the clouds from over there seem to have moved, and they're just moving around here, but there's clearly a lot of rain being dumped in the sea over there, and luckily it seems to be missing me altogether. And there's a lady swimming in the sea down there. I don't know if you can see, it's right down there, but there's a lady. She's been swimming in the sea for the last few minutes. Very brave soul. And a few more people have started to appear on the beach, particularly at that end. And there's 1 or 2 more boats appearing on the sea. Well, time's shot by, and I've got to go and pick Anita up. So I hope you found this sort of a news video really interesting, enjoyed the view, and see you in the next one. Bye for now.